Hey, what's going on, fight fans? Back here live, another edition of Boxing Chit. It's myself, Josh, here along with Boz, holding it down across the Atlantic. How's it going there, Boz?
Pretty good. We had some nice weather for sunny weather anyway this weekend, but it's kind of getting colder. Now it's the fall is really upon us. So, but it's a good weather pretty much now the last few days. Yeah,
Okay, likewise here. Been a rainy, gloomy weekend, but as you know, the fights go on by any means. Rain, sleet, or snow, the show must go.
thank
And
goodness
we're
for
here.
that.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
indeed. We're here, folks. So thank you for joining us. Those that will be here live, those that will be listening on the replay, you are appreciated wholeheartedly. Hey, we do this. We come on, talk a little boxing, the things that happen, and of course, we had some action this weekend. It was a big weekend for the women in the sport, as a matter of fact, because there were a number of cars that were headlined by some names that are familiar. You might have seen some new names as well. We had Mikaela Mayer taking on Sandy Ryan in the title contest. We also had Alicia Baumgartner taking on Delphine Persoon in another
Mm,
contest that I believe was competed for a title, if assuming Alicia
yeah,
had
it
WBC.
was WBO or IBF. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. So we had that, and then we had Terri Harper and Rhiannon Dixon that were together in contest as well, and that ultimately was a title fight. So again, a big weekend for the women of the sport there, and I think that's a great sign there, Boz. It shows that there is a level of
Yeah.
excuse me, interest and intrigue. And as far as that, we can start with the Sandy Ryan versus Mikaela Mayer 10-round contest that was taking place in here in the U.S. As a matter of fact, in New York, Madison Square Garden Theater. This was a pretty solid, just overall card. But Sandy Ryan was coming in, putting her title on the line against Mikaela Mayer, who was looking to regain a title because she ultimately was defeated by Baumgartner some time back, but she was looking to regain a title, except this time she was going up against Sandy Ryan. And in this case, Sandy Ryan was putting up a fight, or we expected her to put up a fight, which she did. And we expected Mikaela Mayer to charge for it and look to really gun and go for it. But some drama there before the fight, Boz, where
Yeah,
Pate was down on Sandy Ryan as she was leaving her hotel, which was very interesting right there. So one has to
yeah,
wonder if that had an effect on her, which she said it didn't leading up to the fight, or as they were asking her prior to the fight, but after the fight, she said it did affect her, and she ultimately lost a close
of
decision.
course.
I think it was unanimous, but it was a close decision to Mikaela
Oh
Mayer.
no, it was a majority decision.
Okay,
Yeah,
majority decision. Rather, it was a majority decision, so that shows you the close nature of it. And
yeah,
Michaela is the new champ there at the weight, and I'll double check what that was. But how? Let me know what your thoughts were on that, Boz.
yeah. I watched the fight. I mean, and Michaela definitely won the fight. She was busier, and then just you could see the difference because Sandy Ryan, I believe, only had 9 pro fights before this, so this was her 10th, I believe. And Michaela just moved and boxed better, and that's why she won. I mean, Sandy did have some good punches, but also Michaela kind of really scored a big right hand in the first round that kind of snapped Ryan's head back, and so she had her also, quite impressive punches for somebody who only has 5 knockouts, of 22 or something, and. But yeah, I
Yeah.
thought Ryan did the first 5 rounds were definitely Michaela, like almost all her. She was really dominant. And then in the second half, the rest of those 5 rounds, the second 5 rounds, were pretty, competitive. But still, I thought, I could never see this a draw, really. I mean, I could never have scored this a draw myself. I don't think Sandy Ryan won more than maybe 3 rounds, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, definitely not much more than that. She had scored some good punches, but she would not follow them up, So that enabled Mayer to come back always and land her own. So yeah, it didn't look good for Harper, who was supposed to be kind of, the bully, the more aggressive fighter here, as well as probably harder hitting also. So yeah, that's how I saw it. I think probably that Mikaela won like 7 rounds, probably something like that. But yeah, I didn't really score it. But if I had, I'd probably scored
really does go in
97, 93 or something. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that incident with the paint. I mean, of course, it's upsetting. Of course, you don't want something like that to happen to you right before a major fight. So of course, that was a shame. Yeah, I hope they can get a rematch. I mean, make a rematch. So yeah, where are you? You disappeared now. Hey, Skywalker is here. Hello to Tim. Hey, brother. Salute. I'm sure Joshua will be back. I mean, he's been experimenting too much today. Well, let's wait. All right, here he is now.
All right, folks. Yeah, I had a few technical difficulties on my end.
Yeah,
apologies there, but I did hear what you were saying there, Boz. It just I wasn't able to say anything or my screen.
Yeah.
But that being said, yeah, thanks for sharing that info. And I was going to note, so it was for WBC 100 welterweight title that Mikaela and Ryan fought for. And I thought it was a pretty solid contest overall. You had some good back and forth from both of them. And you're right about Ryan. When she sits down on her punches, she can be heavy-handed. So she does have that going for her. But I, too, thought that she was outworked by Mikaela Mayer from an overall perspective. And I ultimately ended up having it a contest that was 97-93 in favor of Mayer. There are those that felt that I've seen some comments online, at least, and then of course Mark Kriegel. These individuals felt that Ryan won the contest. Certainly subjective. There were some close rounds, probably some swing rounds. But that being said, I do think that Mikaela Mayer outworked her, and she was in charge for pretty much the majority of the contest. And I think that kind of factored in to the scoring and why the judges ultimately went with Mayer, or at least she got the majority decision. And real quick, shout out to Skywalker Boxing, who dropped by, showing some love. Appreciate you there, Skywalker Boxing. As a matter of fact, be sure to drop by Skywalker's channel, Skywalker Boxing Media, and you'll be able to check out some content that he has there on his channel. The Tim and Tim show is there, of course, and then other things that are going on in and around the sport. So big ups in that regard. So yeah, as it relates to Ryan and Mayer, so this puts Mayer back with the title, as I had alluded to. She's back in the mix there. She has a title, something she had sought. She had a couple of run-ins back when she was over in the UK trying to compete for a title, as a matter of fact, and it didn't quite work out in her favor. And I'm going to pull up some pictures from the cards. But at this point, bringing it back here, she was able to make it happen. And it was always a wonder of, okay, why is she traveling to go make these things happen and getting these bad calls or bad judging? Because there's some that thought she won some of the other fights that she participated in over in the UK. But I think it's certainly subjective with that as well. But she has put herself right back up there as being a force, and I'm sure there will be others who are going to come knocking to try and get a shot at that title there.
She has certainly grown into the welterweight division very well, and she was always a big lightweight, also Mikaela. So yeah, this is the right division for her now, definitely. Sorry, and what else? I was going to say something else now. I forget. But yeah, it was a pretty good fight all in all. But no way it could have been a draw. I mean, I don't see it at all. So
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing with scoring. You just never know where they're going to end up having it, and it does make things very interesting from an overall standpoint. Mikaela Mayer, I think she has been putting in a lot of good work, and I don't think this is the end. Sandy Ryan, hey, maybe a rematch is in order. I think that it's one of those contests where that could be the case. Maybe it would even be the case over on other soil, but it all depends on how everything works out team-wise. Now, what are your thoughts on the fact that she was doused with the paint and her saying that had some type of effect on her? Gamesmanship, I guess.
Of course. I mean, if it happens on the very day of the fight, of course you're gonna be, not in the best mood or like best psyche or mental state. So that's not something she needed, definitely. That's a really weird. Sounds really weird. I couldn't believe it when I read it. But yeah, and you could see it because the first two rounds she just wasn't there really. She was very, timid and really, really open, slow. And then in the third round she kind of, started like doing more. But as I said, it wasn't until the sixth round that she really started pouring it on, and yeah, so that wasn't enough, of course, in the end. So if she had started more aggressively, maybe, who knows, maybe the fight would have been close enough for her to get a draw at least. So, that would be defense.
No, you're right. And Mikaela Mayer, they interviewed both fighters. Mayer said, "Hey, she had no idea about it or nothing to do with that whole paint situation," which I guess in theory, it's probably wasn't her that did it, but it makes you wonder, was it's someone from her team you would think it was, and how much did she actually know?
Yeah, a fan most likely.
Or a fan, yeah,
over-eager fan, probably, and yeah,
that could have been the case as well.
I don't think Sandy said anything really disparaging, to Mikaela, did she, before the fight? I mean, because if she had done that, then you can understand, something like that happening. But I don't think she did say anything really disparaging.
Yeah. So very interesting for sure. Definitely very interesting. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. So be sure to check out Bruce Gas, folks, on his channel over there. He has a lot of good content. Some touches on some historical things that are taking place within the sport. So be sure to go over there, drop by. I think you'll really enjoy it. And shout out to Mr. Pads, who's in the building as well. Appreciate you there, Mr. Pads. Good having you here in the mix for a discussion. Mr. Pads states, real talk, Boz and Josh, very harsh to give Mayer the win. I saw people say that it was justice because people felt that Mayer got hard done by a few times. I don't like that logic. It's stupid. Yeah, I get what you said there as far as the logic behind such in terms of apple for an apple or shot for shot.
It's not that, no, but I thought Mayer definitely did enough to win the fight.
Yeah,
one can disagree, but she really dominated, as I said, the first half, and also in the second half won a few rounds as well, at least a couple of, so yep.
Yeah. Now I thought that it was fairly close, just overall. It depends on what you like in some rounds. I would say what you liked in some rounds, that was a differing factor. Now, I had the same scores mentioned as one of the judges on the card, and I did have Mikaela winning. Could I see Sandy Ryan winning? Potentially. Yeah, potentially. I think it's always interesting when you have scoring that has these different variations. One being a draw, then two
I
other
mean,
scores that were a little bit different but fairly close. It does make things fairly interesting.
if you watch the highlights like of the most exciting moments, then maybe you can even get the idea that Sandy Ryan maybe deserved at least a draw, because as I said, she had some really good punches and scored some punches that were big, but she never really had Mayer in trouble, first of all. And she those punches were always answered by Mayer. So it wasn't ever like she had her against the ropes and like bang bang bang, fighting for life. No, that never happened. So
Yeah, and I think that it's a matter of kind of the heavier shots might have been from Ryan, so that might have given her the edge to
yeah,
some.
well, as I said in the first round, Mikaela really landed a great right hand that shook obviously Sandy, and
Mhm.
yeah, she had a few more good punches, but that was the best one definitely by her. Yeah,
Yeah, and Skywalker mentions Mayer threw more, landed more, but some of Cindy's power punches looked impressive
yeah,
to steal some
that's
rounds. Yeah,
true. I agree, 100%.
certainly the case. Mr. Pads also mentions that Josh and Boz, did y'all watch the Chris Eubank Jr. press conference situation with him going at multiple promoters? Did you also like their Better BF versus Bivol trailer? It was cool in my opinion. Yeah, I haven't checked out either of those yet, but certainly I'll try to see what's up.
I don't know. Chris Eubank Jr. is really, I mean, I don't know. He's having some problems, obviously, and yeah, it's never doesn't help that when you then go and are in the media too much and do these shenanigans and you pull. But I can understand him. He's been. I mean, I have heard people like Eddie Hearn really bash him. Really
Yeah,
like, and
yeah,
yeah. But I don't really get it. I don't get that kind of sentiment. I mean, I think just that promoters don't like, being called out or questioned or their motives and stuff like that. Their practices. Eddie Hearn certainly doesn't like that. And,
oh yeah,
British boxing there's been so much, BS going on with those promoters now. Ben Shalom also, he has been in a war of words with Eddie Hearn as well. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's a mess, and fighters going from one promoter to another and back and forth. Joshua Blatzy, I know he left Eddie Hearn recently, and it's a
yeah,
weird situation.
yeah. I think nature of the beast. I guess in some regards, yeah, just how life rolls. I guess you can say. Shout out to Ernest Johnson in the mix here. Appreciate you dropping by, Ernest. AKA Poppy Chun Yayo. Be sure to go check out Ernest on his channel there, part of the Tim and Tim show. Real quick, also, Mr. Pads asked Josh and Boz, is Mayer versus Sandy the fight of the year? And I don't think so. I heard that
Yeah,
being thrown out there. I thought it was a very good fight, but
yeah,
probably not fight of the year in the mix, I guess you could say.
it was a good fight. Yeah, of course. Even as a women's fight, I don't know. Maybe it's a candidate, but I wouldn't probably not choose that one as the fight of the year.
Yeah, I had to think back a little bit on what could be the fight of the year. I thought that was a good one, but I know I've seen some that I've thought had a lot of more back and forth. So I'd probably go with fight of the year based on what I know here off top. I'd probably go with Berto Ortiz when he took on Boachuk, the Ukrainian
Oh
fighter,
yeah.
Ortiz Boachuk.
Well, of course, all together. Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All in all, I think that was fight of the year so far
that
from
was
what I've seen. A lot of
very
back and
close
forth
fight.
here.
Yeah, very close fight and a controversial decision, I thought. Anyway, so yeah, why
Oh
not?
yeah, yeah, certainly. Yeah, and Ernest Johnson mentions fight of the year will be a tough one this year. Certainly. We have to wait and see what transpires with some of the remaining fights, but we've had some good ones, so
Yeah,
it'll take a lot to dethrone some of them. Yeah. So again, thanks everyone joining Boxing Chit. Josh and Boz here, 86 Boxing Podcast. We appreciate you all joining. Those listening, we were talking Mayer versus Ryan, which is a huge fight from the weekend, with Mikaela Mayer winning and picking up the WBO World Welterweight Title. This was in the Madison Square Garden in New York. Now, there are also some other fights on the card there as well. And we got to see Xander Zayas make his return to the ring. Xander is one of those guys who's shown a lot of promise, and he was taking on Damian Sosa. And in this contest, Zayas showed that, hey, he's pretty much graduated from that prospect stage. I think Top Rank has gone about developing him fairly well, and he's taken advantage of it and shown that he is potentially a force to be reckoned with there at 154 pounds, which is a division that has a lot of talent right now. And I'd imagine he could make some traction in this particular division. So Xander Zayas, he was the co-main event for this particular card, and I thought he did fairly well, as mentioned, with Sosa being the veteran fighter. This was intended to be somewhat of a step up for Zayas, and it ended up being a 10-round unanimous decision that Xander Zayas dominated for the most part. Sosa really didn't throw a ton of punches, so I'm guessing he was feeling and anticipating what was coming back, and of course that affected his output from an overall standpoint. Shout out to Xander Zayas. I don't know if you caught that one, Boz, or you remember seeing Xander. He's a Puerto Rican fighter who is on the rise.
Yeah, I just read up on him, but never seen him fight. I didn't see this one last night, or was it on Friday?
Yes, this was on Friday. He was at one point the signee with Top Rank. He's about 21 now, 21 years old. So he's been pro for a good little while. I think he turned pro when he was 17. And they brought about building him up in the proper manner. And he did his thing there. So he wants someone top 5 or whatever it may be. He seems ready for it. And I think that he'll put up a good fight. The sky is the limit in some sense. You just never know. But I think he'll be able to rise to the occasion here as he continue to take on some of those bigger name fighters. So shout out to him.
Boxing nation like Puerto Rico, they need another new star in the make. I mean, a new hope anyway, for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely, they do need that. Now, also, as Mr. Paz mentioned, Shushu Carrington keeps on shining. That is the case. Shushu Carrington fought as well in what was a step-up fight for him, or at least intended to be, against Segawa. And Shushu Carrington, hey, he showed that he can hang in there with a pretty solid, just overall opponent. Segawa upset Ruben Villa. Or Segawa just upset Ruben Villa in his last contest in a fight that people didn't expect him to win. But he came into this one and he looked a bit shaky early. You saw Carrington landing some big shots, but he was able to get it together. And he ended up taking Carrington the distance. And I think it was some great work for Carrington, who is still a young fighter who continues to impress, as noted there by Mr. Paz. And more to come for him for sure. Is representing New York, and he has power. He can box. He has the amateur pedigree and background. He seems to have a great team around him. He seems to have a passion for getting in that ring. So I think that makes a world of difference as far as overall. Just thinking about what's in store for him in the future.
That's good.
All right. Mr. Pat says, although he wasn't that great this time, but hey, he was a step up for him there, Mr. Pat. So he learned something from it, I'd imagine. It showed that Segawa, he's a pretty solid opponent from an overall standpoint. And that adds to sort of that building of Shushu Carrington. So it paid some dividends for him. I think he probably appreciated that. And Segawa, we'll see him back in there. As far as Carrington, yeah, I want to see what's next for him as well, because he has shown that he can really handle a lot of these opponents that he's been doing that were kind of lower tier, and they've gradually stepped him up. Segawa was the right move, probably at the right time. So you would think it's only up from here as well. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Shushu there, Boz, but he is
No.
prospect high on the rise here on the U.S. side.
Always, yeah. Always. There's so many new prospects. It's so hard to keep up with them all. Yeah. But that's good for the sport, of course.
Yeah. Ernest mentioned Xander made it look easy. He improved a lot. Certainly. He's been doing the right things. Ernest also mentioned Papa Hernandez has to be in the cover for fighting the year. Oh, yeah, possibly there for sure. Skywalker Boxing mentioned Tiger looked like he needs more work on yesterday was just off night for him. The judges didn't give the credit to Alamo either. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I saw some of the Delonte Johnson fight. I was kind of watching it, but I was doing other stuff. And yeah, it was one of those where he went the distance, and Tiger Johnson has potential for sure, but we'll see how he continues to develop. That's always the challenge. What do they do, and how do they continue to develop? Do they continue to put in the work? And I think that's something that is factored in. Mr. Pat says, damn, I just realized Shushu Carrington is 27. Wow, 27. Interesting. I didn't know he was 27 either. I thought he was a little bit younger than such. But yeah, you're right. 27 years of age. So, hey, maybe he's hitting his prime and right in stride right now. And that is interesting. I thought he was a bit younger myself. So we'll see. Maybe he's with this Segawa, they're going to bump him up here an extra notch. I think he's at 126, I believe is where he's fighting. Now, there seemed to be some type of build-up potentially for a matchup between Carrington and Inoue some point in the future, but we'll see. If Inoue decides to move up to 126, that might be someone where that fight happens, because both are, of course, with top rank, and that kind of factors into the overall billing. So yeah, we'll see what happens here as far as the both of them. Skywalker 3-majority decision on that top rank card of the night. Vito, Shushu, and Mayer. Oh yeah. So also, yeah, Vito Melnicki, he ended up fighting and got a victory as well. Another fight that was all right, not too bad overall. Not a ton of action in them, so it's interesting for sure. But yeah, that's what was on the card as well. So that kind of topped off that card. I wanted to move on to another card that actually happened, and it was on Friday as well, and that was Alicia Baumgartner, and she was making her long-awaited return to the ring against Delphine Persoon. Now, this was a contest that took place in Atlanta, Georgia. It was like a unique spot where it was an event where they had a digital background or digital surrounding in the facility there. So it was groundbreaking. It was an all-women's card, and I think that they delivered. It was a pretty solid, just overall event, and it took place on Brinks TV, so it was free to watch. You just had to download, or at least go by the website or download the Brinks TV app. They were also on some other shows as well, or on some other streaming channels as well and platforms. But basically, the Alicia Baumgartner came into the contest. This was her first time fighting since July of 2023. So she'd been over a year out. You know, she was going through some different things as far as testing in her last contest. She seemed to be cleared by the WBC. So she came into this, and she was still like the top billing there at 135 pounds or 130 pounds. So essentially, she had the IBF, IBO, WBC, and WBO belt that she was competing for, or at least defending in some sense. And as you know, Boz, the fight ended in a no contest after what was deemed a hit, but stopped the fight after your blood was getting into the eye of Delphine Persoon, so it was on the right side of her eye, and that ultimately played into the decision for the doctor stopping the contest. But prior to that, I think that Alicia Baumgartner was looking good and really coming on, and she was setting herself up to potentially stop Delphine Persoon, who came in at 39, and she's usually a fast starter. But that being said, Alicia Baumgartner has shown that she has a good deal of power behind some of her punches.
Yeah, for sure. She has power. You know, she hasn't scored that many stoppages, but anyway, it's yeah, she's fought some of the best also. And yeah, Persoon, I thought it was a mismatch, of course, because of Persoon's age, as you said, and she had a height advantage, but it didn't help her much, of course. Even her leg kind of looked injured or something. She had some kind of, yeah, well, not bandage or something. I don't know what it's called on her leg. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, maybe better for her that it was stopped like this. I mean, she was probably headed towards getting stopped, as you said, and that could have been kind of, damaging for her health probably at this age. So yeah, I mean, not much to say, but yeah, Alicia looked good for not having fought for over a year, of course. She keeps herself in great shape always, so that hasn't been an issue for her, obviously, not being too active. Too active.
Yep, and then as Mr. Pads noted, Alicia was able to get a knockdown in that first round. It was a nice shot that made both of Persoon's gloves touch the canvas, and she was able to recover. Of course, it wasn't stopped there, but I think it was inevitable it was going to happen because Alicia, when she sits down on her punches, you can just tell she has some power and impact within those things, and that's something that I think Persoon wasn't going to be able to avoid for the remainder of the fight. Ernest mentions Persoon's leg was no good; her mobility was compromised. Yeah, I'd imagine that would factor into it as well. So she wasn't able to move away probably as much as she wanted, but she has shown to be one of those fighters who isn't afraid to go in and exchange, and that probably wouldn't have boded well for her for the fact that Alicia is one who has some power and is able to really put that into work on some of these different fighters that she's taking on. And that says something because we know the women have the 2-minute rounds, but when you're able to stop your opponents, when you have women that can do that, that shows that they have some pretty solid power, because I think she has sort of a difference maker, separating power, because we feel that some, if it were 3 minutes, maybe the attrition would get them out of there. But she seems to have the type of power at times, be that she's really a puncher, and at any given moment, she can really upset the apple cart in some sense.
Yeah, I think it comes from her, being very athletic. Some boxers can hit hard because of their, athleticity, how they call it, whatever. Others are just born with this, natural power. Like, I don't know, let's say Jimmy Wild is a good example to go back in history, or even Tommy Hearns when he was the skinny welterweight, that's right hand. But others are just, naturally strong, and that's why they also can punch hard. So I think for Alicia, it's more the second thing, that she's so strong, and athletic.
No, I'm in agreement there. So it'll be interesting to see what's next. I think Alicia is firmly number one at 130. So we'll see if any challenges move down or move up that could really throw a wrench into things as it relates to Alicia Baumgartner. So time will certainly tell. But she was the headliner on this card, as mentioned. And I also want to shout out Stephanie Simon. Skywalker mentioned it above as well. But Stephanie Simon, the fighting Marine herself, she ended up making her pro debut on this card as well. And she was able to get a unanimous decision victory, had her opponent or hit her opponent with some very, very solid shots there early on and throughout the contest, really. But brilliant performance there. I think the sky's the limit for her, and she knows how to put on a show. So I expect that, that we'll see her again here in the future. So Mr. Pads also mentions that there was another card which I was able to catch it. Rhiannon Dixon. Rhiannon Dixon. She was taking on Terri Harper. Terri Harper, a former world champion, and Rhiannon Dixon came into the contest as the WBO champion at I want to say 135 pounds, I believe is the case. And this is a weight that Parker had been at before, Harper rather, and she ultimately was able to outbox Rhiannon Dixon in a pretty solid overall contest. But I think that the power was on the side of Dixon, yet the more, I guess, strategic means by which she went about the fight was on the side of Harper, who was able to land some pretty solid and clean shots at points on Dixon as Dixon tried to close distance. So it was hard for Dixon to find her range, in which she was able to get in. Harper did the smart thing in basically tying her up for the majority of those situations there. So this was and Mr. Pads mentioned Josh and Boz. There was also the Harper card versus Dixon, and on the undercard you had the talented prospect George Lidard. They're trying to market him like a Nigel Benn in the West Ham crowd. Interesting right there, Mr. Pat. So, I wasn't able to catch the undercards. That is one I intend to go back and check out, but I did see the main events. But that is pretty interesting, George Lidard. So we'll have to check him out for sure, especially if he is getting that type of backing. And Mr. Pat mentioned marketing him like a local East London lad, getting the West Ham fans to attend the fights just like they did with Nigel Benn back in the day.
Really? I didn't know that they did support Nigel. That's good because they support also Mark Kaler. You heard of Mark Kaler? He was 80s middleweight. Yeah. So he was very famous for having West Ham supporters. Sometimes also infamous. Yeah.
Cool. And when British fans get behind a fighter, they really do get behind their fighters. So they show love for real. So that's pretty good. Gonna have to check him out there, Mr. Pads. As mentioned, this is a card over in the UK and the WBO title on the line there. But I thought Terri Harper looked in impressive shape leading into it. Dixon, she came in there and Dixon had moments. She actually hurt Terri Parker in the contest on a few occasions. In one of the rounds, I can't remember which one, but it was a clear round that was lost for Harper. She had Harper pretty shaky, but Harper was able to recover. And I think that conditioning came into the fold for her and her experience overall. But I'd certainly like to see the two of them again, regardless of whether they're fighting each other or someone else, because Dixon, despite losing this title, she showed that she has some mettle to her, toughed it out. She took some big shots. Has a pretty solid chin, and she was throwing some big punches, some big hooks that were landing and really rocking Harper to a certain degree there. Skywalker mentions Harper redeemed herself this fight. I thought it was over for her after Ryan. I think that was probably a bridge too far weight-wise, and sometimes that has to factor in.
She was really destroyed by Ryan in the fight. That was, not a good performance.
Probably not ideal for her. You have to find that right weight and everything that gets you in your proper place or whatnot. Because she did jump up after losing to Alicia Baumgartner when she had a title at 100 and I believe 30 or 35 a few years back. And I think that affected her. And then she made a jump up. I think she even fought up at 154, if I'm not mistaken, and she's gone back down now, and I think that factors in and is a major help for her right there. So, so she's back. She's a world champion once again. Mr. Pad says Josh Lidard be the guy called S.A. Smith. I wonder is that Stephen A. Smith?
By the way, to mention another famous female fighter who is also a champion now, Sky Nicholson will be fighting on the Better BFB World undercard. I just found out. Yay.
Oh yeah.
Sky Nicholson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sky Nicholson. Yeah, she's looked good in what I've seen with her as well. I want to see her. She's taking on Raven Chapman. Is going to be the fight that is going to be taking place. I want to see her take on Tiara Brown, who is right there and like the number one person now. Tiara Brown's going to be fighting in Philadelphia on October 12th at 2300 Arena, and it's going to be a interim title match. So likely that matchup will happen in the aftermath. And she's going up against an opponent that Sky Nicholson fought. I think Tiara Brown will probably stop this opponent that she's going against. We'll see. Time will tell, but certainly looking forward to that contest and plan to attend that contest as well to show some love there to Tiara Brown, who's back here in DC training. So shout out to Tiara Brown as she's working on turf conditioning leading up to this contest, but she's always in the gym though, so that's nonstop for her. Real quick here, let me see. So that rounded out pretty much the majority of the weekend. Now there were some other contests that I didn't get to catch myself there, Boz, but I guess worth mentioning. Thompson had a win over Bent via TKO. There's another card that went down in Sheffield.
I mean, one must just focus on the best, biggest fights sometimes, because sometimes there are so many happening at the same time.
Samba lost to Edwards. That was a card that was over in the UK as well. And then Marvin Jerusalem won a unanimous decision in his WBC minimum weight championship that took place last Sunday. So that those are worth mentioning there. Real quick, see, Mr. Pat mentions that Josh and Boz, and I'm having a little technical issue. It came out here, duck Hamza Shiraz. Turkey offered $5 million for him to fight Shiraz, but he turned it down. I think Shiraz is the best middleweight right now. Wow, hadn't heard that, but I really like Shiraz. That is interesting.
Definitely is the kind of the one that many I think will avoid and are avoiding probably already because of both of his size and punching power and all that aggressiveness.
Oh yeah, certainly. No, that's big time. I'm surprised. Yeah, Eubank Jr. I thought he would take a situation like that, but maybe he's just kind of picking and choosing at this point here, and we'll see what's in store. But I do like Hamza Shiraz, though. I think he's very talented, and he could be that guy at middleweight. And he's shown, and he's pretty much running through fighters here at times. So I'm ready for that. Yes, sure. Adam Cannoli would be a good one for him. Hopefully we get that contest at some point.
And he is fighting next Friday in Australia, by the way, also. Against this guy, Mikhailovich, who is based in Australia, actually. So that's going to be interesting. The IBF title is at stake. So he still got that one. He was stripped of the WBA one, I believe, or WBO, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Johnny. And Mr. Pass mentioned there were some reports that Janibek ducked him too. Janibek is fighting someone next week too, not a good opponent though. Oh yeah, I thought that he's fighting. Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't think Mikhailovich is a really bad opponent. I mean, he's unbeaten, first of all. He's 21-0, so. And he's also a pretty big middleweight, kind of like Janibek, same size and younger also, 26. So, it's not a bum fight, definitely. I wouldn't call it that.
Okay, good to go. Yeah, it should be interesting then. And and Shiraz is a big middleweight as well, so that makes it interesting.
And with him, he said that he will only have not more than 4 more fights at middleweight before he moves up. Yeah, that's what he said.
I did hear mention of that right there. So I'd imagine that'll factor in kind of the speed at which he goes about it So very interesting. So Mr. Pat says, Josh, how much is the pay-per-view for the Bivol Better BF card? Because I heard Turkey wanted to make it $15, but I'm not sure if it came to fruition. So I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it yet, but I do know that Joshua versus Dubois, it was $20. So 19, I believe 19.99. So I wouldn't doubt that it's going to be $15 for a Bivol Better BF. What I had heard or seen, read early on was that the intent was for only the Better Bivol card to be the pay-per-view portion, or that fight to be the pay-per-view portion, then the rest of it shown free. So I think it may be around $15, which I think is not bad. I like the idea of pay-per-views being around this price, and I think that will get more people to start to purchase pay-per-views again, as opposed to some of these exorbitant amounts that don't really live up to the amount paid as far as the overall fight card. So I think this is a good thing for the sport right here, because you want more eyes.
Definitely.
Ernest mentions Shiraz is a bad boy indeed. Mr. Pratt says middleweight is a horrible division at the moment. They need to make a tournament in order to make it somewhat interesting. That would be good. I think we're all
now, it is better than it was 2 years ago. I would say definitely. You know, when Triple G kind of stopped fighting and stuff. But yeah, it's not good. Definitely not good yet. It's not there yet. Hopefully, it will be soon.
Yeah, they could certainly use a boost, a little spark. I like the World Boxing Super Series. If they did that for middleweight, I think that would be pretty awesome right there. I don't know if that will come back. Richard Schaefer, I know, initially had some involvement. We'll see, though, because he's now working with Mayweather Promotions.
Oh, no. I don't like Schaefer. I never did really. But, yeah. I mean, just as what happened now? Oh, sorry. Something open here. All right. All good. Yeah. I mean, he's probably a good businessman, but, I just never liked when I thought he was doing too much talking at these press conferences. And with that accent and all that, the way he looks, I didn't like watching him.
Gotcha right there. Oh, Schaefer. So, yeah, we'll see, though. But, yeah, we might not get a tournament. I doubt it. But there's some good names out there. Carlos Adames. Of course, we got Janibek Shiraz. So, potential for some good matchup. Cheers to Christopher Booth in the mix here. Appreciate you there, Christopher. Thanks for dropping by, checking out the channel. Skywalker Boxing Media mentioned suing people and not wanting to buy his floor seats. Everyone hating on him lately.
He's suing Ryan Garcia for battery. I mean, come on. What the hell?
Oh, yeah, I saw an Instagram post alluding to such. But, yeah.
I mean, that's a boxing match. You can't call that battery. Are you crazy? Man, what the hell? I mean,
yeah, it's certainly a messy situation.
You can say I'm suing him for cheating. Well, right, yeah, cheating. Yeah, you can say so. But a battery, you know what battery is? Come on.
Yeah, maybe that's the kind of technicality type situation where it has to be wrapped into that in some capacity. Not really sure, but yeah, he's really going after it with this one. And hey, ideally you want it to be a level playing field when you're out there in the ring and you're going to get someone. But yeah, I'd imagine a lot of people are going to get him, but I guess he's doing this based on how he felt it went in terms of the contest and what he may or may not have lost outside of just the matchup itself.
Yeah, it's also a little bit of an ego thing, like maybe you might say his first loss and stuff. But even though he did lose, actually should have lost to Lomachenko, but let's leave that be now. But yeah, and did he fire his father or what happened? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I haven't caught up with that aspect of it, so I'll have to look into it a bit. But yeah, there's definitely some drama there. Mr. Pratt mentioned, I can't believe Haney sued him for very embarrassing. Yeah, I guess he has the right to do so, but I'd imagine if he would have won, then it will probably be a different case. But the loss factored in with the way it went down, I guess that's driving it.
I don't think he'll get much money out of that lawsuit. But we'll see. Who knows? It's America, wink, wink. You never know with American courts. Kind
Yeah. So I'll mentions I had to buy floor seats in Phoenix. Oh yeah, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, got you there. Yeah, when they price the events right, that makes it a lot more easier on the fight fans because there are a number of events that take place. You can see them if you're going to a small local show. Like when I first started going to the smaller local shows, you could get like a ringside seat, and you still can for some, but for like $100 or something like that. It all depends. Basically, you'll have some where they're 150 and that's on the high end, or maybe 200, 250, somewhere in that nature. That's always a good range. But it all depends on the level of fighter and I guess how much they're trying to generate or they have to have regenerated in order to break even or more in terms of putting on the contest. So very interesting for sure. But I like it when they keep the boxing fans in mind. Ernest mentions, how would you classify a person knowingly using PEDs in boxing? What legal term would you ascribe to it? Yeah, that's a good point right there, Ernest. So I do see what you're saying in terms of
cheater. What else?
yeah, yeah. So I think Haney certainly has the right, and maybe it's something that factors into how situations like this are handled in the future. I do know that, for instance, the first fighter to be charged with murder was Harry Lewis. It was back in the I don't want to say tens or whatnot, or it might have been the 1920s, but Harry Lewis, and he was charged with murder in the ring, and it was a situation where he actually just knocked out a guy and he never recovered. But this is a situation where someone popped on a drug test. It wasn't murder, of course, but
well, I don't know. It's not always like that. Taking steroids before a fight, it didn't always help the fighter win. Like for instance, Fernando Vargas, he was on PEDs or whatever you call it, PEDs, when he fought De La Hoya, and he still wound up getting knocked out. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That is true. I know it's happened before for sure. So this is a very interesting one. Bruce Gas mentions Garcia is countersuing Haney over what his father said. This can't get any weirder. Yeah, I didn't know about that. So, so it's just a legal mess, I guess, going on right now. Who knows how this is going to end up, and we'll see what it does as far as the future of things.
Technically, maybe you can say that what Aaron Pryor did in the first fight against Arguello was cheating, even though he didn't know it. But his trainer was famous for, dirty business. So Panama Lewis.
He was.
Yeah, that black bottle. Give me the one that I mixed, he says. The one I mixed.
Yeah, when legalities are thrown in the mix, then it takes it to a different level for sure. So with this Haney Garcia situation, it'll be interesting to see where it ends up because it's either going to get thrown out or they'll end up getting some mediation. Maybe it goes to a settlement of some type at some point. But very interesting. I don't know if we have examples of a similar situation happening before. I'd have to look into it. But that is very interesting, I would say, in terms of popping on the test and then being sued afterwards, which, yes, there was cheating, as mentioned as well. So very interesting, surrounding the overall viability of, that suit. We'll see if it's taken on by or the wherever it's happening. I'm guessing it was Vegas, probably where he filed the lawsuit. So we'll see if they take that on.
Probably. I would just like to mention before we end this that Nick Ball is fighting on Saturday also, against Ronnie Rios. So in Liverpool at home.
Yeah. Okay, good to go. Yep, let me pull that up right there as far as the actual schedule of fights that are in store. But so Nick Ball, Ronnie Rios. So that should be a good one right there. I do favor Nick Ball in that contest because Rios was at one point retired and then he made a little comeback or whatnot. But solid fighter, veteran fighter, Nick Ball is a wrecking ball out there. And I think that he will be a tough challenge for sure for for Ronnie Rios, and I like him in that matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this will be a good fight, definitely. But Ball will break him down eventually. For I believe, yeah, most likely will score a later stoppage anyway. And I don't know which round. It's hard to say. After the eighth round, like between the eighth and 12th, probably something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah, he's tough and scrappy. You know, I always say,
Yeah.
or one of the things that I think about is Nick Ball. He kind of reminds me of what it may have looked like seeing Barbados Joe Walcott in the ring back in the day, because Nick Ball is 5'2", Barbados Joe Walcott is 5'3" or 5'1", and he was able to be one of the great welterweights the sport has seen, and he was routinely fighting bigger guys. And you get to see how a guy at 5'2" and Ball can go in there and get it done with bigger guys. And then you think to yourself, oh yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you can have one of these smaller guys dominating some bigger opponents that he's going up against, you know?
Yeah, the swarmers, that's the term, the classic swarmer type.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Go there with their head tucked low and yeah, just throwing punches.
Skywalker says, I believe in Ronnie Rios just like Angelo Leo. He took a break from the sport after losing to MJ, came back to pro boxing. Now he's getting a title shot. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that could potentially happen. Hey, he's not out of the contest. Certainly he could potentially get a victory over or in the actual matchup.
That would take
I do like Nick Ball. He's a little less flawed or he's not as flawed as Vanilla Lopez, I would think, in terms of how he goes about his fundamental game. So it's going to make it interesting. But Rios is tough for sure, and the potential is definitely there. And hopefully it ends up being a pretty solid, just overall contest right there. But definitely one can go with Ronnie Rios. I'm leading Nick Ball. Skywalker Boxing Media also said Angelo Leo took a break after the Fulton loss and got into pro boxing. Now he's the champ. Certainly, he's got. Yeah, he did that. It's been working. Good stuff. So yeah, the potential is there.
Yeah,
no doubt the potential is there.
Yep. Never say never. Yep.
Yeah. And we talked about Alam Canoli. He's going to be fighting Mikhailovich. So I'm going to be checking that out. IBF World Middleweight Championship. So it's going down in Australia as well. So that should be interesting.
At least there are a couple of interesting fights before the weekend after, which is the big one, first big one of this month, the upcoming month, that is. So yeah.
Who's that?
That's the Better Be a Bivol card.
Oh yeah, Better Be a Bivol. Yeah, that's in store here at some point shortly. So that's Saturday, October 12th. So it's going to be Bivol, and this is for the man is going in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, but whomever wins will be the man at 175, undisputed. So it's been a long time coming. Looking forward to that. And I mentioned on Wednesday, October 9th, we actually have Chris Colbert. He's going to be making a return on Pro. So yeah, but Better Be a Bivol. Real quick, that's a pretty stacked card. You have Wardley Clark on there, Opataya Massey, Eubank Jr., Sarah's Meta, which I guess you could tell Nicholas Chapman, and Whitaker versus Cameron.
Yeah, pretty good looking card there, undercard. I mean, yeah.
So yeah, that's certainly one we'll have to talk about here in the near future or in the next edition of Boxing Chit. So good stuff right there. I'm looking forward to it for sure. So thank you all. This has been good right here. Right before we close out, Mr. Fad, Josh and Boz have a question. Do y'all think that Daniel Dubois is the most improved fighter of the year thus far, and that Don Charles has a shot for trainer of the year? Dubois is different now.
Yeah,
I would say so. Certainly in the running there. Yeah, you'd have to find someone who has taken greater strides than Dubois. And just thinking about it, I can't think of anyone right now who's jumped in and taking a greater strides than what he's done thus far in this year. being able to do what he did, knocking off Anthony Joshua, beating Filip Hrgovic, and these were, top
If you
10,
said,
top five guys.
if you had said that like after Usyk fight he's gonna knock out Anthony Joshua, everybody would have laughed at you, of course. Oh no
Oh yeah,
way, haha, crazy. But now,
yeah,
yeah, he's really improved. Yeah, definitely. He's just knows how to pace himself better now, also, and has got a little also better defense, even I would say, and just against Joshua, he was just perfect. That was a perfect fight.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, certainly. So nod to Dunn Charles. He's showing that he's a pretty solid trainer overall. And Dubois, he's on that high right now, and someone to watch. And
Yeah.
as Skywalker mentioned, he's a man now, and either Usyk rematch or Bacoli. Yeah, those will both be great fights out of that, especially that
They
Bacoli
will.
fight, action packed right there.
Or even
Somebody's going down.
somebody like Zhang or Parker.
Oh yeah, Jane,
And
Joseph Parker. Yeah, Joseph Parker. He's done well as. In addition, he's on a pretty solid run right now. So yeah, I wouldn't
yeah,
mind seeing a Parker Dubois fight as well, and that would settle some things. So
this is
I
really
think,
good for I think the heavyweight boxing, because I think we've already seen Joshua. Well, we wouldn't mind seeing him fight any of those guys, even though he has fought Parker already. But I think he is spent. He has done all that he could, I think, or achieved as much
yeah,
as he could. So now it's time to see someone like Dubois fight the best out there. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So I wouldn't be against that. I like the idea of him taking on someone else, and it might not be Usyk or Fury, because assume that if Fury wins, then there's going to be a trilogy fight between those guys, and of course, I'd imagine he's not going to wait and just kind of sit on the shelf for that. So maybe we get James Jalade or one of these other guys in the ring there with Dubois, which would be good.
Mm.
Bless you. Cheers there to Dion Clubs. Thanks for dropping in, Clubber D. Appreciate you dropping by there, buddy. As always, be sure to go check him out on Ball and Budge podcast or the Ball and Budge channel for sure. And Christopher Booth says, I see Bacoli getting knocked out in this next fight. Very interesting. Seems like he's got a tough, solid beard on him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Potential could happen. Depends on who he's going against. Nothing's lined up yet, right?
I don't really see that happening. Not easily, for sure.
Yeah, he's got a chin on him.
Yeah,
I do like Zhang. I do like John Jalay,
he's
though.
like he should be having the nickname Juggernaut instead of Joe Joyce. Definitely.
Yeah, hey, he might get that for sure.
Yeah.
Dubois sends Bacoli to the high heavens. Bacoli is overrated, in my opinion, and only beat a massively overrated fighter in Baby Anderson, whose heart wasn't all in the sport all that way. Very interesting.
Wow.
He did knock off Tony Yoka when they were expecting him to be an opponent against Tony Yoka as well. I know. So Bacoli.
He beat Makhmudov for what that's worth, but it looks a little less impressive than it maybe would have 2 years ago or something. But yeah, still, I mean, he's shown he can handle both guys that are as big as himself and smaller guys. So
yeah. We'll certainly see there. I do like Bacoli. I mean, he's rose to the occasion here for sure. He took some big shots from Anderson, and he pretty much ate those shots. So you really had to come with it. Yeah, Jane, he probably could hurt him. And I really like Jane. I might favor Jane in a contest between the two, but certainly it's not a given. I don't think it's a given. But I want to see more of them. Hey, if we get these fights made, if Turkey Alashish or whatever is getting these fights made, then that's what's up right there. We can find out for sure. Ms. Pratt told Josh, I read that Frank Warren is thinking about signing Tony Yoka so that he could do the Tony Yoka versus Joe Joyce rematch like in the Olympics. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yoka is very, very, very overrated. Well, was anyway. Now probably not anymore. So, but yeah, why not have him fight Joyce? Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, Warren is on a high right now. These guys are doing their thing. So hey, I'd imagine he'll get more signing up to join Queensbury Promotions. Let's get it. Chris Booth, what did Anderson weigh? I don't recall. I imagine, excuse me, he was in the 120s, maybe 130s, or 220s or 230s there. Christopher Booth, somewhere around there. He's generally been in around there, probably in that close to 230 or whatnot. So, and hey, he's quick. He was faster than Bacoli. Just when you look at it just from an overall standpoint, but Bacoli's uppercuts and whatnot, some of his punches were short and quick that he got him out there with, So, but Scott Mr. Bacoli was way bigger than Big Baby. Yeah, that's the nature of the beast there in the heavyweight division. Hey, you got to work with what you can, but he had some benefits to him. So, yeah, it's very interesting, I would say, just overall. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, what transpires. But, hey, we can find out for sure if the fights are made. And thus far, it looks like we're on the trajectory where the best fights are going to be made there. But, we'll see as time goes on. So, but we thank you all. We thank everyone who are here in attendance. Hey, we've hit just over an hour here, a little bit over an hour. So, hey, we're going to end this edition of Boxing Chit, but we will most certainly be back. And you can expect us to be talking about some of these big matchups that are happening here in the near term. So, in the meantime, definitely have a great weekend. Shout out to everyone who dropped into the chat. Shout out Skywalker, channel member there. Get that badge. But appreciate everyone. So have a good one. We'll catch you on the flip side, folks.